Hey everybody, it's Monika and welcome to my channel where I help social workers, therapists, and helping professionals deepen their level of self-awareness while increasing their competence and confidence in the profession. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about the 10 social work positions that are projected to increase as well as the salary for those positions. So if you're interested in this topic, then please keep watching. I'm Monika Thomas, the founder and clinical social worker at Kindred Connections Therapy Center. I've been a social worker for over 12 years. I decided to do an entire YouTube channel on my journey from cubicle working social worker to successful entrepreneur. Welcome to my channel. So I came across an article online, and I'll put the article here just in case you want to reference it, and I'll also put a link in the description. So I wanted to do an overview of the article. So in the article, it talked about the top 10 social work positions as well as the salary requirements. So know that depending on where you live, what area of the country, these salary requirements might shift or change, and it might not be the same in every state and every country. So you'll need to make sure that you do your research to see if these salaries are in line with what the numbers are in your area. So I'll start from the lowest paid position that's listed on the article, and then I'll move up to the highest paid position. And I'll also share some of my thoughts about the position and what are some skill sets that I think might be required in order for you to really thrive and do a good job in that type of career. So number 10 is a medical social worker, and the salary is listed at $55,120. So I've worked as a medical social worker before, and I'll leave a link to a video that I did here about working on a psychiatric unit, because when I worked as a medical social worker, that's the level of work that I did. So you can work on a psychiatric unit in a hospital, but that's not the only thing that you can do if you're working in a hospital. So you can also do the discharges, which is a part of what I did in my role, or you can work in the emergency rooms. You can be responsible for the intakes. You can also help families make decisions around accessing resources or working through the difficulties with insurance, or thinking about where a client is going to go after their discharge from the hospital and setting up those aftercare services. If you're working in an emergency room setting, that's not something that I did. So for my colleagues who've worked in an emergency room setting, some of the skills that would require are crisis intervention, the ability to make decisions very quickly, to be able to think on your feet, to be able to help calm the environment when things are very stressful, being able to multitask the best way you possibly can in that type of environment, and to be able to be relatable to people who are in crisis. So if you're someone who you don't really have a lot of patience, you get really stressed out in high stress environments, meaning you're not able to calm the environment, but you match the energy of the environment, that might not be the best route for you. So working on a psychiatric unit, I think working on a psychiatric unit takes a high level of self-awareness, meaning you have to learn not to take things personal that people say to you on the unit. You have to have skills in suicide lethality, assessment. You want really strong assessment skills, really strong writing skills, and then knowing how to refer out to local agencies within your community and keeping a good resource list on where clients can go after discharge. Number 9 is a school social worker, and the salary that's listed there is $56,310. And I've also worked as a school social worker, and I loved working as a school social worker. Some of the skills that I think that are required when you work in a school is being able to collaborate with teachers, having really strong boundaries, because sometimes teachers will ask you to do things that are outside of your scope, having strong communication, because you'll need to communicate with parents as it relates to the care of a child. You'll also have to communicate with teachers, ensuring that the referrals are in place so that you can begin services. Also communicating to them, letting them know what type of services will be paid for. When I worked as a school social worker, we only saw clients who had Medicaid insurance, so any private pay insurance we didn't take, but you have to be able to explain that to the principal and be able to explain that to a teacher. It also requires creativity, because you'll be working with students in a school setting. You want to do things that are very activity based, that can really help clients with decision making, working through their anger, and being able to have a high level of emotional intelligence. So you want to have those types of activities on hand. Oftentimes when you're working in a school, you'll be called in to do a lot of outside activities, like coordinating activities that the school might be doing, which could be like Read Across America, or a school book fair or a field trip. So sometimes you'll be called away from your responsibilities, which will make it hard for you to do your day-to-day task. That's why I think it's really important for you to be able to stand up for yourself and know that you can enforce your boundaries while still maintaining a good relationship with your teachers. The next position is a social and community services manager, and that salary is listed as $65,320 a year. And again, I have worked as a community-based manager at a nonprofit organization. Now, if you are wanting to transition into being a manager, if you want to start being a manager, which would be an administrative type position, one of the things that it's going to require is you to strengthen your leadership skills. And leadership skills does not always mean that you boss people around, that you tell people what to do, and that you demand that things get done at a specific time. So I'm really big on learning the type of leader that you are. I'm a more democratic leader, meaning I try to get the opinions of my team. I operate off of group consensus, and I ensure that everyone is on board before we move forward with the project or move forward with an idea. I always try to get buy-in from my team, and I'm very encouraging when I work with people who might not have a lot of confidence or really don't have a lot of direction on what they're doing. I'm also really big at delegating tasks and not micromanaging people and allowing them time to complete the task in their own time. If I find that someone that I'm managing is struggling, I'm really quick to try to put a plan in place to help them before we get to having to create a corrective action plan or to put something in place where they can be in jeopardy of losing their job. So you have to know your leadership style if you want to apply for a position like this. You have to know how to motivate people and to learn the ways that you need to interact with someone based off of their learning style. So everyone is not going to be supervised the same way. The strategies and techniques that you use with one employee, you might not be able to use those with a different employee. So you also want to know, how do you give constructive feedback and criticism to your employees? You want to use a technique that tells the employee what the issue is, but still empowers them to go out and do the job that they're being asked to do. Documentation is another big thing when you're in this type of role, because if you're responsible for the outcomes and the production that your team is going to deliver, you want to make sure that you're really documenting how well people are doing, because you might be responsible for completing performance evaluations. Number 6 is a public policy analysis, and that position salary is $67,691. So I've never worked in this position before, but if you're working in policy, you would have to be someone who enjoys reading or doesn't mind a lot of reading of policies to be able to comb through what different policies are, being a very strategic thinker, being able to analyze things, and being able to put systems in place that can help the workflow go better. Number 5 is social work teachers and professors, and that salary is $68,300 a year. So I have worked as an adjunct faculty member at an HBCU as well as a local community college, and as an adjunct, you don't get paid that much. I've also seen where they're not paying some adjuncts to work at a university. So you want to see what the salary is based off the school where you'll be working. You can also work an online position, so that's also an option for you. So if you're going to go this route, what is required is learning what it means to be an educator and what it means to be a teacher. You have to learn about pedagogy. You have to learn about curriculum development. It really helps if you're very organized, because you're going to have to grade the papers of your students. Being able to have timely communication is going to be really important, because your students are going to want to meet with you to talk about assignments, to make sure that they're clear on what the expectations are. And you want to be organized because you're going to have a syllabus that you're needing to follow throughout the entire semester. So you want to be able to make time for being an instructor and being a teacher. So I'll put a video here because I also created a video around being an adjunct faculty member and how to get started with that. So you can check that video out if you're interested. Number 4 is a speech pathologist, and the speech pathologist salary is $77,510 a year. Now, I've never worked as a speech pathologist. I don't know any social worker who's used their degree to work as a speech pathologist. So if that's something that you're interested in, what a speech pathologist does is they assess, they diagnose, and they help treat any type of speech delays or speech issues that a child might have that can be impacting their learning. So you don't only have to work with children, but all the speech pathologists that I've worked with when I worked in a school setting, that's how I came to know about the work that they do. Number 3 is a social science research assistant. And the salary listed here is $77,520. So this salary might depend on the college or university where you're assisting. So you will want to look into that to see if the salary is comparable. Being a social science research assistant, so I would just encourage you to do your research on that. Number 2 is a military social worker, and the salary listed is $49,878. So I've never worked as a military social worker, but I have applied for a lot of military social work jobs. So the jobs that I applied for, what it entails was being able to help veterans, or to be able to help families who were newly stationed in the area, or to be able to help those families access childcare, or be able to help them access resources while they were on base. Now that position can be varied as well. So again, you'll need to do your research on that. And number 1 is a corporate responsibility manager, and the salary listed there is $85,709. So I've not ever done corporate responsibility, but I have applied for a lot of corporate responsibility jobs. So what a corporate responsibility job entails. So think about a brand that you like or a brand where you shop. Oftentimes those brands have initiatives where they give back to the community or where they do something to stay connected with their customers. So corporate responsibility is a company's or corporation's commitment to do good or do good work by the customers which they serve. So they might do outreach activities, they might donate back to the community, they might have scholarships set up, or they might give a portion of what they make back to different causes within the community. Your responsibility as a manager would be to help coordinate some of those relationships. It might be to coordinate events, to ensure the coordination of PR so that specific events are covered, or to ensure that a company's efforts and initiatives can be broadcast to the broader community. So it can be a way that a corporation gives back to the community in terms of volunteerism. So sometimes you'll see companies all put on their branded color shirts, and they'll go into a domestic violence shelter, or they'll go to a homeless shelter, and then they'll give back in that way. So if you were in that role, you might be responsible for coordinating that connection between the company and the nonprofit organization. So oftentimes companies have missions that they align with, or they have work that they want to support. So you will have to make sure, if you work in this position, that whatever the work that they support, that is in line with your values, and that is something that you would want to do and that you have no issue advocating for. So those are the top 10 careers in social work. So you can check any of those careers out. Again, I'll leave the link in the description if you want to check out the full article. If you've not downloaded my 112 careers in social work download, you can get that here. I'll also leave a link in the description. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and as always, be well.